Good evening, health advocates. I said earlier in the week we're coming to talk to you tonight about bloating, flatulence, upper intestinal or uncomfortable gas. Okay, so what is this alluding to? I want you to think about one word or one acronym. It's called SIBO, Small Intestinal Bacterial Overgrowth. And I've got to say, I'm seeing a lot more of it in my clients. I want to talk, what is SIBO? How do you get SIBO? How do you treat SIBO? And if you need to investigate further. So first of all, what is SIBO? This is, as I said, when you've got excessive bloating or wind or flatulence or constipation or just someone who wakes up in the morning with a very flat stomach and by the end of lunchtime they've had breakfast and lunch and they feel like they're pregnant. This is a bloating sensation that is not normal. It means you're not digesting your food properly. And what food groups are you not digesting properly? The most prominent food group with your carbohydrates. Why? Because we have bacteria living in our stomach, guys. It's called your microbiome. And your microbiome starts from your stomach and goes all the way down to your lower colon. Okay, so I'm talking about the upper part of the stomach. That's your small intestine. Now this area predominantly doesn't have a huge amount of bacteria. So when it has an increase of the wrong type of bacteria, therefore it does distend easily and becomes uncomfortable. So how do I get SIBO? Well, the first reason is, have you been on a long course of antibiotics or had too many frequent uses courses or little course of antibiotics? Have you been on a Nexium or Somac or protein pump inhibitor, which stops stomach acid? And when you stop stomach acid, you send undigested food particles down to your stomach, which over-ferment. Am I a hypothyroid patient where I have slowed gut motility, also causing undigested food to go to my stomach? There's some of the reasons. So I want you to think, do I have the symptoms? And have I been on some of those medicines that now give me the cause to think, do I have a SIBO? Well, let's test. Okay, how do we test for SIBO? Well, we all know you can do a Helicobacter test, and it's called a breath test, and it sees how much hydrogen I breathe out. And that would be a diagnosis of too much hydrogen. I might have an overgrowth in my upper part of my stomach. What about my part of the stomach I'm talking about now, SIBO? Well, that's methane, guys. Same thing, we can do a loading dose and you can breathe out methane. If there's too much methane, we'd be suspicious that you had a small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. Okay, so what do I do if I'm diagnosed with a SIBO? The first thing is look at your diet. So we have many wonderful diets that have been introduced in the last 5 years that treat SIBO. You could look at the elemental diet, and I want you to Google these. You could look at a GAPS diet, or what about a low FODMAP diet? And that's probably the one most well researched. And it said people with signs and symptoms of SIBO, they go on a low FODMAP diet and they have about a 70% improvement in the symptoms. But guys, that's just treating the symptoms. You have to go back and look at the cause. Okay, so you've still got the bacteria which is overgrown. So how am I going to treat that? Well, you could go to mainstream medicine, and we do have very good antibiotics or general antimicrobials that work totally in the stomach that can reduce it. Well, the new research wasn't compelling. It said about 30 to 40% had an improvement on some of these medicines. So why don't we look at natural options? Well, I've got to say, there's been a wonderful product in the States that I'm using on clients, and it's getting great results. It's got 3 components. The first thing is it takes the inflammation out of the stomach, and I want that, and that uses a peppermint leaf. The second ingredient is from the conkin tree, and that kills the type of bacteria that's overgrown the stomach. And the third ingredient starves it out. So, as a little bit of a pun tonight, I'm going to call it ABS capsules. You take 2-3 times a day for a month, and then as you need them. We're getting such good response that I would guarantee this product with 100% money back if it didn't work for you. Now, I've called it ABC as a bit of a joke to call it angry bowel syndrome. Of course, you've got an irritated or an irritable bowel, but most people I see is damn right angry. So I think we need to do something about it, and I want you to think about those ABS capsules. What else have I got to do? Well, I'm not going to give you a probiotic because we know you have a disproportionate high number of bacteria. At the moment, I want to give you something to inhibit that, and I want to give you like a yeast type. And probably Saccharomyces boulardii is my go-to, and you start with 1 a day. And that's a yeast probiotic. So that we use, but not your general mainstream probiotics, or they'll make it worse. So I want you to get off any mainstream probiotics. The second thing, or probably the last thing I want you to think of, is fatigue. We know bloating and an irritable bowel, you often get very fatigued. So you're going to strip out the food groups causing it, and that's by following a low FODMAP diet. What's the number 1 nutrient fatigue? It's my B12. Everyone knows I love my B12. I want you to go an oral spray. I don't want you to have it in a tablet because we've just said you have reduced absorption because you've got some good gut dysbiosis. So an oral spray, put it inside your cheek 1 to 3 times a day will give you an uplift of B12 but energy, and that'll get you through while we treat you. I hope this gives you a good explanation. Diagnose it. We can do that here with a GastroLabs form where you do a breath test. The next thing is you treat it. You look at how you treat it, eradicate it with the angry bowel syndrome capsule and bring in the good bacteria you need, like a Saccharomyces boulardii. And then we want to see how you travel into the future with a good diet management plan. And maybe start with the FODMAP diet to start. I hope this has given you a lot of information. Bloating and IBS and irritable bowel is very common. You can help yourself and we can help you on that journey. Please email us and have a great night.